Do current comic writers overthink things? Meaning, you want to tell straightforward comic art. It's not that hard, but people seem to make it hard. Why is that? Hey there, this is Perch. I had this crazy revelation yesterday. There's this Pharrell Williams song, "Happy." I think it was it "Happy." It's now I'm screwing it all up. But basically, it's from an album called "Girl," and there were these articles of Pharrell Williams, Agent of Girl, and about a year later, year and a half later, we get the uncancelable Wasp, Agents of Girl, and somehow now seem to think that that whole concept came from came from Pharrell Williams, and like somebody like the writer went to see Despicable Me 2, heard the song, like, oh, that's a catchy song, saw this, and it's like, oh, Girl, that's kind of cool. He's like, it's a guy singer, and it's Agents of Girl, and it just I now think two and two go together. I don't know. That's a sorry. I just these weird thoughts every now and then. Bits of pop culture kind of bubble up, and it's like, hey, I've seen this before. Where did I see? Oh, this is in a comic book. Oh my God, this is where the comic book got it from. It's. I just like it to be the other way around. Like so you can tell Spider-Man is a big hit and Superman's a big hit because people sing songs and they do pop culture things about those characters. So I think for all the new characters getting made, the measure of success, the bar, is that the pop culture is getting made about you, not you ripping off other pop culture. But oh well, what do I know? Anyway, I I I often wonder, when a new writer is coming on, when a new title is launched, and the book is trying to get out the gate, and every writer, I believe this is true. I believe every writer, every creative team for a book, whether it's Wasp, whether it's uh, anything, any book. You think about the new 52 books, all those books, 52 of them coming out, and I think every single writer who's on one of those titles would like that title to continue, both for personal pride reasons, they don't want their title to get canceled, and for financial reasons, they want to keep getting paid, of course. And so I think that they want these things to continue. And yet, when you read the first issue of the comic, or rather the first six issues of the comic, you can usually predict if it's going to go anywhere or not. Usually, you can predict in the first kind of two, maybe three issues, sometimes even faster, if the comic's gonna land. And I always wonder, when it's clearly the comic is right out the gate doing something crazy, and it's telling a bizarre story that's not marketable, not going to go anywhere. And by the way, everything I'm saying right now is related to the big two publishers, which if you write for the big two publishers, like it or not, you're writing for a mega corporation that has distribution everywhere. You are writing for quote unquote the mainstream. There's a lot of really cool ideas. A customer had this comment, and I think it's true. It took me a minute to kind of wrap my head around, but I think it's true. The Hulk storyline, where She Hulk had this PTSD, this trauma, and she's trying to control her rage, and it was kind of her reintegrating, and you got this monster character and this lawyer character, and kind of how the two balance together. Just this whole kind of concept. First off, I think in terms of kind of PTSD and that kind of stuff, I mean, Tom King he's got the market cornered on being able to do that. You could say whether you like those comics or not, he does those stories relatively well, sometimes quite well. Sometimes you don't want them done well because it's Batman. And you're like, what the hell are you doing to Batman? But anyway, in Hulk, if you taken the customer's comment was, if you took that storyline, that whole comic, and you got rid of the Marvel banner, and you had it be a story for Image, kind of an independent story, or anything else, basically some other publisher, it would have landed better. Don't know if it would have sold better, but would have landed better because that publisher, that market, is more set up to service those kinds of stories. And you might say, hey, no, what? It doesn't matter. A good story is a good story, and it's true. And you can also argue that Marvel or DC does not have to be, and they do try lots of different things. They try action books, they try comedy books, they try teen books, they try adult books, they try all kinds of different types of titles, but they are known and pushed as a corporate kind of torchbearer for comics. So you can't completely escape who you are. It'd be like if Def Jam label, Def Jam Productions, sorry, if that label suddenly started, it's like, let's market some country music. It's like you could do that, but you're going against your grain. And so the point I'm getting to here is, if you are working for the big two and you're a new writer or you're an old writer, whatever you are, and you're trying to launch a new title, you should go out the gate, with an established handbook of how to get your comic off the ground, and that includes, writing a story arc that is going to appeal to your core audience, that has a beginning, middle, and end, villain, hero, protagonist, adventure going on. And I'll point to, uh, when the writer for Hulk, so, the Hulk ended, it gets canceled because, of course, it had low sales and nothing's going on. Moved over to X-23 and started that book up. The first arc of that series was actually good. It was a by, and it sold fairly well. It was a by the numbers, by and large storyline. You have the character, you have the villains, which in this case the is it Cuckoo sister. It's somebody. Customers come in and sometimes they go, it's the Cuckoo sisters. I'm like, the what? It I don't know. Maybe I can't pronounce things, but it had them as the villains, and they got some angst going on. They're going to capture, some of the characters, and they're going to try and infuse. And it's just, there's a hero, there's a villain, there's a conflict, there's a mystery, and it was there you go. There was a story, and it was not a 100,000 copy seller, but it did sell reasonably well, for what it was, and it set the title off on at least a better footing. Now, title still gets canceled, several issues later, because as soon as that story arc ended, it went right into kind of, again, kind of navel gazing territory, if you will, which would work fine for an independent comic. But again, you're talking to the Marvel and their audience of kind of, their superhero storylines and everything else. I've heard writers complain and say, we shouldn't be, we shouldn't just be cape books. Cape books are dying, and we have to evolve. We have to get to that next idea, that next concept. And my answer to that is, hey, your parent company just made more, billions of dollars on Avengers, and Kate Books is what puts meat on the table for you. So if you want to branch out, be my guest, but don't screw up your Kate Books in the process. You better make sure that those Kate Books are, selling well, doing well on nice stable ground while you branch out. Don't say, hey, it's dying, let's jettison all those and just go for this other weird thing that's unproven. That's a fast way to get fired and to lose your job. But kind of back to the initial um, point here. It's Look, I think, where's the failure? Where's the breakdown? Because it's easy to say, hey, there's these writers and they're coming in, they're writing things that nobody wants to read, and they're tanking these books before they even begin. And there's lots of, you can say that all day long, and several people do, but we have to. I mean, you have to kind of look at who's to blame here. If you are relaunching, say, Wolverine, and you look at kind of the first arc, the first 6 to 12 issues of Wolverine, you need to make them kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, action packed. You need to have a storyline that has a villain, a mystery, a twist, some plot teasers for future issues. You have to do all these things to kind of set this title up on the right footing. And here's the tricky part, or the frustrating part, I should say. It's not like this is a deep mystery. It's not like there's no comics in the world that you could turn to. It's not like you're inventing something from nothing. You have literally decades of comics to pull from, and not all. There people are like, oh, every single comic back in the '80s was wonderful. No, there's plenty of garbage back then, but the benefit of time is that we can look back over the last 3+ decades and we can say, uh, you know, this was a good comic. This comic wasn't good by metrics of sales, by metric of what held. Everybody likes things that are more unique. I like David Lynch. You'll notice he is not being hired to write, the next movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's not being given billion-dollar properties, and there's a reason his stuff's not mass market popular. And that's what that business is about. So he makes independent films. They're great. I enjoy them, but he's not going to be put on the new Transformers, even though that would be awesome. But this is the problem with comics: is these writers come in, they're right, they're saying, we want you to tell your story, or give us a unique pitch. And right there, I think that's bad advice. Don't give us a unique pitch. Give us a pitch that's going to sell this book and help it survive and get it off the right footing. So we can blame the writers, and they're creating some of these storylines that are unsellable, that are not landing, that are bad for the character. Certainly, there's some blame there, but isn't more the blame the company, the editors, the people putting these folks in this position? A lot of them are new to writing. If they were really super popular, novel, writers making tons of money, they would be doing that. They wouldn't be going backward into to comics. To put it another way, they wouldn't be punching down into comics. They would be staying in that happy zone of more money. But they're in comics. A lot of them are new to the field. They're trying to get the best foot up. And in any business, when you have somebody new to the business, who do you rely on? Well, you rely on the manager, the director, the boss, the mentor, the editor, whoever it might be, the person who is there to help this person succeed, to get on stable footing and go. And I think this is the broken part of the industry: is you're not getting help. And so these, what should be a fairly easy, for lack of a better word, slam dunk of, if you're handed a, fairly reasonably well known character, and you're relaunching a brand new number one, you've got an Avengers book or Wolverine book or whatever, Spider-Man or whatever it happens, you're being given a character with a ton of history. And you need to respect that history in the sense that you're building off of that history. And you need to try and help this book survive. And you need to have mentors, editors, bosses, people in charge who are helping you do that. Not saying, no, 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 go ahead and create in your own words, in your own style. Just give us something new and original. And you go off into left field, and then 6 issues later, it's like, oh, we're canceling the book. And it's like, oh, why? Well, because of the angry people on Twitter, they sunk the book for you. It's like, wait, what? I mean, it's like the old meme, the Principal Skinner. It's like, am I wrong? No, it must be the children's fault. That's kind of the circle of life that you have with these stories. You get a character, you put out an arc that is more experimental, that does not have a clear, that has a brand new villain nobody's ever heard of and is untested and unproven, and you've got the character acting in ways they don't normally act, and you have a very clunky kind of story of beginning, middle, and end, and you have a cancellation, and then after the cancellation, you have a blame of the readers for sabotaging the book. It's a vicious cycle, and it's one that's easily avoidable. Um, it's tough because I say this, and the counter argument is like, well, comics shouldn't be a formula. Well, sort of. Comics shouldn't all be the same. I mean, you look at the '90s comics, a lot of the Image comics, and in particular out of the Extreme brand, and a lot of them were exactly the same. That wasn't a formula; it was a rubber stamp. A formula I'm talking about is clear story, hero, villain, mystery, hook to future issue, twist in the middle, first, second, and third act, and putting it on good footing for future sales. That's the formula that I think comics do need to have. So certainly if you're writing for the big two. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this is a problem? Do you struggle with how the stories kind of unfold and how these new series are getting launched? I mean, if you've got a property like Shuri, who has not been a major character, has been a backup of a backup character in the Marvel universe, and in the comics anyway. And then the movie comes out, and the characters kind of got a few breakout moments. But again, the movie wasn't Shuri and Black Panther. And Kevin didn't come out, after Black Panther made all its money and saying we're announcing a Shuri movie. That none of that happened. So it's even the cinematic universe, the movie folks understand that this is still a supporting character. They haven't done enough to have now. If they could have that character, do their own movie and have a standalone film and be able to make double money from Black Panther 2 and Shuri, absolutely they would do that. But they know that that wouldn't work. So you're going to make a Shuri comic, and what do? Well, we're going to put a fairly untested writer. We're going to put a fairly some with some history in comics, but not tons. And are we going to kind of stack the deck a little bit by putting Shuri in a place where she's got to face a major well-known Marvel villain that's trying to steal or take over or burn down Wakanda? I mean, I feel like all the elements are there. Black Panther is not on planet. He's missing. Kingdom is in a little bit of chaos. It's ripe for infiltration. It's you could have a mastermind villain that is well known, like a Doctor Doom. They already kind of did a Doctor Doom in this area, but do it this way: put a Red Skull. Go for a Red Skull here. And Red Skull is going to do kind of a feint by hiring, kind of assembling a new kind of clunky Masters of Evil that's going to go at Wakanda out in the open and really directly, and kind of try and create some problems and take over the country. But meanwhile, Red Skull's going to come around through the kind of the back end and kind of manipulate, infiltrate, take over some of the people in the cabinet of Wakanda through mind control or what have you. And Shuri is going to be fighting this direct fight from the Masters of Evil coming at the borders, only to discover that the center of the country is starting to collapse because of the infiltration out of the back end. It was bad guy's plan all along, is to get her distracted while he came in this way, and tell that, and then that's your first 6-issue arc. She finds out the Red Skull is there. She kind of defeats him, but there's still some of his spies inside of the country, and so she's not sure who to trust. And she's off her game a little bit because she's got technology that she was able to use to defeat the villains that are coming in through the front door, but she doesn't know how to tackle this backdoor kind of threat and problem. And she knows Red Skull's going to come and try it again. And you can play up the whole kind of racism angle, and he's a Nazi fascist too. Why not? Because that would be fine. And there you go. That's your 6-issue arc. The next 6 issues is her trying to uncover kind of where some of follow the trail to the Red Skull, but you don't have the Red Skull appear in the next 6 issues. You have him kind of you have him in the background and as a shadow threat, and that's how you keep the title going. I mean, honestly, if you'd run with a storyline like that, the title would still be going today. And granted, it would not have explored the kind of things that the writer explored in her run, but it would also still be alive as a book. So what's more important is getting kind of half of your message out, or a fraction of your message out in 6 issues and calling it a day, or having a African American female hero that is got an ongoing title that's selling well and on the shelves and can be an inspiration for people. I don't know. I mean, for me, I'd take that second one, but a lot of folks, I don't know, the business is operating in the opposite direction right now, where it's like, well, we want to inspire kids and we want to have these, representation matters. And I'm like, cool, then you should want the title to survive, right? I think you would want the title to survive. If representation matters, then you want more than 6 issues, I think. So anyway, that's kind of my comment. I think a lot of these comics are launching on really shaky, bad footing, and then they fail, and it's easily avoidable. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts. How could this be better? How can we help? What kind of advice would you give? Like, subscribe, go ahead and try for notifications if you want that. And thank you for listening.